Right, let's do this. Let's talk about this man here, Marcus Rashford. Have you heard of him? Has anyone ever spoken about this guy? I think I'm lifting the lid on this one. He's a footballer. Welcome back to the James Allcott channel. More James Allcott with me, more. We're going to talk about Marcus Rashford, and we're going to talk about this because he is on his way, it would seem, according to Fabrizio Romano, to Aston Villa. Marcus Rashford has completed medical tests as new Aston Villa player. It looks like it's happening. Now, quite some time ago, we looked at the teams that Rashford could go to. And here's my initial line on it, feeling on it. Nah, I don't, my gut doesn't like this. But in terms of exploring that thought, I then find myself kind of getting caught down Rashford cul-de-sacs, where he's actually kind of, you know that phrase, beggars can't be choosers? Well, wildly rich players under long contracts can't be choosers. That's the world we're living in right now. So, first of all, Romano saying that it's done. So the next thing is, does he fit into the Aston Villa team? Apparently he's had chats with Unai Emery. I think there's two things you have to talk about here. Profile-wise, does he fit? We'll talk about that. But then also kind of like the personality element of it and just the situation he finds himself in. So get yourself comfy and we'll have a little chat about it. And subscribe if you do so feel inclined. So this is the Villa team broadly. Now there are some interesting ones as part of this. So the last game against Wolves, Kamara actually had to play centre back. Massively struggled in doing that, but in a perfect world, you're looking to kind of mix that up, and it looks like there might be a defender that might make his way before the deadline. We'll see, but obviously that doesn't matter too much. What we have seen, if we take Rashford out for a second, is one, Marlon has been brought through the door, but Marlon generally plays, obviously, in this area here, as Jermaine Genius would say. Rodgers has been playing in this 10. Let's just unhighlight them both. Watkins, as we know. Let's take Bailey out for a second because there's been talk about him going to Man United briefly. So maybe he's going to go somewhere else. Who knows? And then Ramsey on this left-hand side with Luca Dean looking to step forward and get forward a lot of the time, get crosses in for the team. He's always kind of been like that. We spoke about Matis Tel and where he could go. And I thought that, yeah, he could play in this role here. But what I thought was important was actually his development in terms of Ramsey. I watched the Wolves game. They were poor in the Wolves game. Part of that was down to the centre-back problems that are occurring right now. But when you think about Marcus Rashford and how he steps into this, naturally you put him over on this left-hand side. Generally, the bulk of his sort of good work has been done on that left-hand side. And this is where I'm struggling a little bit. We'll come back to this. Let's have a look at his heat map because I think with Marcus Rashford, a lot could be kind of spoken about with that. And we know that he's actually, like, when you look at profiles, this is actually from the 21-22 season. And it shows that he can, like, pop up everywhere. And he has done. He has popped up everywhere in terms of positions he gets into. But also, starting out wide, then cutting inside. That's when he's really been at his best for Man United. But in a style of play that's not really like the way that Aston Villa play. We have a little look at this season's heat map for the man himself. Really hugging that left side. Again, in a team that under Ten Hag was where he was getting most of his minutes. The odd game through the middle, but not a huge amount going on. Let me just make sure this is in the right league. Yeah, Premier League. So kind of hugs that left side, right? Let's have a look at Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey does this on the right-hand side. And in terms of having that out-and-out winger, generally, the person that they've used for that has been the right-sided winger. And so for Rashford, we'll come back to the tactics board, I think that's interesting. What does Emery want to do with him? This is before you I think there's some other elements here in terms of wide. This doesn't feel great to me. But again, I think he's in a cul-de-sac. But when we talk about Jacob Ramsey on the left-hand side, again, a very different player to Rashford. Not an out-and-out winger. Similar areas in terms of that heat map, but not busting a gut to get into the box maybe as much. As you can see, a little bit further away from goal in terms of his runs, or then he will then make that run. He's more of a sort of... some people sort of saying he's got kind of a Gaza style to him, or, he's a player that can take players away by dribbling past them in that channel, in that half space, but also really great at timing his runs into the box. So again, that doesn't sound like Rashford, does it? That's really, really different. So why are they signing him? And yeah, what's going on? I think the obvious reason is when you look at the squad, there's no strikers there. So from Aston Villa's point of view, I absolutely get why they're doing it. Absolutely understand it. You've got Marlon, who I don't think they really want to play as a central striker anyway. They want to play him out wide. Aside from that, it's Ollie Watkins, who I haven't had a chance to look into it, but he was struggling with his groin in that Wolves game. I don't know if he was okay or not. So if he was out, then obviously Rashford plays through the middle. Do you want Rashford to play through the middle? But also in terms of options you can get, if they're going to take a chunk of the wages, is it that sort of no-brainer where you go, this guy's a talented footballer, we don't have to buy him right now, let's just bring him in. So from Aston Villa's point of view, if Watkins gets injured or you need someone else to bring on, fine, bring on Rashford, you can bring him in Champions League, he's got Champions League minutes, maybe you can kind of rejuvenate him in some way. But he's not going to start, is he? He's not going to start unless Watkins is out for, a considerable amount of time. What I do wonder is, in terms of kind of horses for courses, what might occur is that he does kind of play in this area here. Does Dean kind of chill out a little bit? And you kind of have these two out here. Or even with Dean or Maatsen, you could still sort of bomb on, I guess. It could be a sort of Luke Shaw kind of vibe, which Luca Dean can kind of play that role, I guess. He likes to sort of cross a little bit more, but maybe he becomes a bit more conservative and it gives Rashford that chance to start wide and start that little bit wider, and it maybe gives Rodgers a bit more room to work in these two areas here, and Watkins just stays through the middle. Is that something that Emery's going to do? Like, we haven't seen him kind of play that conventional way since he's been there. So is a change coming for Aston Villa? The other thing I would say, again, from that Wolves game, it did feel like to me that sometimes when you've got these two kind of coming to feet and then Watkins willing to make that channel run, that's great if it works. If you can get that ball into it, if you can beat the press, play and then go, that's great. But sometimes there's games where these two get stopped and then you're kind of losing the ball in a dangerous area and transitions, they are a-coming. So I do wonder if for example, that game there, is it one where actually, even in that exact same role, and I think he would just naturally drift out wide because he likes that and he likes to be able to go this way or inside. And you've got Watkins who's willing to make that run. But you've got someone who can stay high and wide. And if you want to play that way a little bit more and give Rodgers all these waters here and as time progresses, you have someone who sits, be it Kamara or someone else, and play a little bit more like that, a bit more conventionally, let's say. Again, from Villa's point of view, fine. The thing I'm struggling with here is it just feels a bit Coutinho-y. And I know Villa fans probably don't want to hear that. If you want to get angry, cool. And for Rashford, the thing I'm struggling with here is I'm like, get out of the country, mate. Like, just give yourself a breather. There's so much noise around you. And when we looked at the different teams, we obviously didn't speak about Aston Villa because in terms of the basic formation that they play, it didn't totally make sense. And in this team, is he actually going to get the opportunities that he wants? It feels like there'd have to be quite a change for that to occur, for him to be that regular starter on that side. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'm absolutely fine with being wrong. But my other question to you guys is this. What is success for Rashford in this loan? Because I think everyone will be looking for it. And if he's sitting on the bench, that's a story. And it's a story he doesn't need. Now, that would have been a story elsewhere as well, but there's maybe not the same heat on it if he's at AC Milan or at these other clubs. But Aston Villa are really, really, are a good team with a lot of good players. And if it's not working, he's just not going to play. Now, they need those depths. So again, I'm not having to go at Aston Villa for wanting Rashford. I just wonder, is this the best move for Marcus Rashford? Is he definitely going to start? And if so, is he going to start in a position that he's going to be able to thrive in? In terms of being able to thrive, he had great moments there, didn't he, in coming up into Qatar, and then actually went through the middle and did well there. So again, there's two options there for him. Will he get the minutes that he wants? I just don't know. And is that going to help him in any way? And so I come back to the same question. What is success for Rashford this transfer window in terms of like the reputational hit that he has taken over the last 3 weeks? Really tough for him. And so again, I just think I'd be like, get me out of this country. Get me in another place. And let me kind of thrive there. But obviously he wanted those superstar teams, the Barcelonas, the AC Milans. He wanted one of those ones. And it's not come to fruition. So when you've got the contract that he's got, and it's getting closer and closer to deadline day, and one by one those teams are saying, do you know what? I'm not going to twist on this one. You then get caught down a cul-de-sac, and the only house at the end of that road is Aston Villa. So I wish him absolutely the best. And last game of the season, I think, is Man United, which could be, pure cinema. Although surely there's a clause in there that he doesn't play, so that probably won't mean anything. My gut verdict on this is that this won't work in a way that allows him to succeed in the way that he wants to. But then I think to myself, can he? Like, say he was at AC Milan and caught fire, or Dortmund and he caught fire, and between January and the end of the season he scores 8 goals. That is a huge success. Is he going to get that opportunity here at Villa? I think he'll get some Prem games. I think in Champions League games, I don't think he'll start. And I think it will be an okay move for him. And maybe okay's great right now, because he has got himself into a career rut for sure. And Unai Emery, the one thing I would say is that he is very intense in what he wants. So what has been thrown at Rashford, allegedly, is moments of not training hard enough, not being professional enough. Is that right or wrong? I know absolutely nothing on it. But I think we know what Emery's going to be asking of him. So hopefully he's got the bit between his teeth and he wants to go and prove people wrong. And that using that desire for revenge, quote unquote, I don't think there's any problem in that. And I wish him the bloody best. But my gut's not sure on this one. I've got to be honest. Let me know how you're feeling about this. Aston Villa fans, I'm absolutely fascinated to know how you guys feel about it. Man United fans, is that absolutely done and dusted? And ultimately, you probably want him to do well because you want to be able to sell him. And at the moment, you're not going to be able to do that, especially with the wages that he's got. So how does this truly end? Are Villa ever going to really sign him? I don't know. Talk to me, people. And subscribe on your way out. Lots of love.